God damn it, did last year's presidential election suck or what? It's been a long time since we had an election that bad. In fact, it's been about 16 years. Here are 5 awful things about the 2000 U.S. presidential election. Number 1, the result didn't reflect the will of the people. In 2000, the Democratic Party candidate, Vice President Al Gore, lost the election despite winning the nationwide popular vote. Gore lost the state of Florida and its decisive 25 electoral votes to Republican George W. Bush by an official margin of only 537 votes. The following year, the National Opinion Research Center conducted an independent, unofficial study which concluded that had a statewide recount been allowed to proceed in Florida, Gore would likely have won the state and the presidency. But the election might not have been that close to begin with, were it not for a couple of other factors. For one thing, number 2, vanity candidates may have been spoilers. Though he never had a realistic shot at winning the election, Green Party candidate Ralph Nader campaigned hard in the year 2000, winning 2.8 million votes nationwide, 97,000 of which came from the incredibly close state of Florida. Post-election polling suggested that had Nader not been on the ballot, his supporters would have voted for Gore in sufficient numbers to flip the result. Nader became so infamous for his alleged spoiling of Gore's victory that many people still refer to this third-party candidate vote-splitting phenomenon as the Nader effect. But that might not be fair. It could be that Bush's narrow victory over Gore in Florida was made possible not by people who voted for Ralph Nader, but by laws which prevented many citizens from voting at all. Number 3, voter suppression may have affected the outcome. There is one group of Americans who have had their voting rights revoked in all but 2 states. Convicted felons. Among the states with the harshest felon disenfranchisement laws is Florida, which requires a 5-year waiting period after completion of sentence before felons can apply to have their voting rights reinstated. In the year 2000, there were approximately 827,000 disenfranchised felons in the state of Florida. Had they been allowed to vote, and had they voted in numbers comparable to the rest of the population, it is possible, even likely, that Gore would have carried the state and won the presidency. Number 4, racist fearmongering was successful. We can pitch hypothetical scenarios for how Gore could have won all day, but the truth is, over 50 million people voted for George W. Bush, and without them, I would not be talking about this. While Bush himself preferred to focus on his philosophy of compassionate conservatism during the campaign, he nonetheless benefited from some racist campaign tactics carried out against his opponent. In this case, I'm referring not to Al Gore, but to his main opponent in the primaries, Senator John McCain, who was targeted by independently conducted push polls, which suggested falsely to South Carolina voters that McCain had fathered a child out of wedlock with a black prostitute. There were many, including some in McCain's own campaign, who suspected that the push polls had been the work of Bush's close advisor Karl Rove, although that was never established, and ultimately it doesn't really matter. Bush won the primary and the election, and through him, number 5, enemies of the underprivileged were empowered. George W. Bush's presidency is remembered primarily for its response to the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, which included 2 wars, which ultimately got hundreds of thousands of soldiers, military contractors, and civilians, including thousands of Americans killed, and Americans torturing prisoners captured during the so-called War on Terror. But let's not forget what a nightmare his domestic policies were as well. Bush presided over an increased focus on the war on drugs, even after 9/11, which had disproportionately targeted African Americans for decades, oversaw the botched federal response to Hurricane Katrina, passed tax cuts that primarily benefited the wealthiest Americans, and oversaw the deregulation of the financial services industry, which led to the Great Recession at the end of Bush's presidency. They say past is prologue. In this case especially, let's hope that's not the case. But so far, it's not looking good. The hardest part is picking only 5. Catch you next time. Hey folks, I hope you found this video worth watching. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks for watching.